Today we're going to be talking about the early warning signs that you might be dealing with a narcissist. Everyone should have a healthy dose of narcissism. And I mean healthy narcissism. If you don't have a strong sense of self, then you end up being a caretaker, a people pleaser. You end up being somebody who is reactive to the needs of other people. So you stand in a group and you're waiting for the leader of the group to make a decision or to let you know what direction you're taking. And so you don't have a strong sense of self. You don't have a strong sense of autonomy. You struggle with self-esteem, like you struggle with wondering whether or not you're even worthy. You're afraid to be a burden to other people. You know, you tend to stuff your feelings, and rather than be able to say, hey, you know, I have a need here, you repress it. And so if you don't have a healthy dose of narcissism, then it's really difficult to go out in life and to get your needs met and to even you meet your needs, because you'll feel guilty for wanting to take care of yourself or for saying no. So I think it's important. I think that when those of us who are interested in narcissism and narcissistic personality disorder and understanding narcissism in general and understanding ourselves, like what happened to us if you were raised by a narcissistic parent or you had two narcissistic parents, you know, you come with this whole plethora of issues that you have to deal with as the adult child of a coming from a dysfunctional home. When you come from a home where you have been raised to feel invisible, it's really difficult growing up because you have to somehow find that middle ground. You have to somehow develop healthy narcissism. You know, you have to develop the ability to say no and to set a boundary. And that can be really, really difficult if in your head you're so afraid of being like your mom or like your dad. So I just want to encourage everyone to understand that what we're trying to do is find the middle ground. And the reason that we come together to learn about these ideas is because we're really trying to identify narcissism when it goes off the charts, and when we're dealing with people who lack the ability to become self-aware and who, as a result of not being able to see themselves like everybody else, which is flawed like everybody else, and the inability to look at family history, the inability to really make sense of what happened to them as a child. When you're dealing with somebody who needs to be grandiose or who needs to play the perpetual victim, and you don't know what you're dealing with, your life gets sucked into a black hole. So the goal really isn't to identify these traits in people so that, you know, you abuse them in return or you blast them on social media. It really is to learn how to navigate your way through life with as few hiccups as possible. Because when you don't know what you're dealing with in yourself and you don't know what you're dealing with in someone else, then life becomes a rabbit hole. You know, you end up on these hamster wheels and you don't get off because you don't know what you're dealing with. And so it really is, for the sake of understanding what narcissism is and how narcissism is a trait and exists on a spectrum. You know, most people that we bump into don't have NPD. Most people that we bump into are, you know, people who may be higher than others on the narcissistic spectrum. And I think it's helpful to recognize the nuance of narcissism, because it allows you to be in conversations with people and recognize what's going on. And once you recognize what's going on, and if you're really, really careful at keeping your own ego in check, then you'll be able to negotiate a conversation with somebody who is on the spectrum. You'll be able to escape unnecessary drama. If you are in a toxic relationship and you finally understand, oh, this is what I'm dealing with, that will allow you to be able to escape the relationship and understand what you're dealing with. I think so much clarity comes to our lives and our minds once we understand what we're dealing with, right? And why my relationship is not working out and why it can't, And so identifying somebody who has high narcissistic traits and or who may even have narcissistic personality disorder, it is liberating once you know what you're dealing with. And then I also think it's really important that once you recognize what you're dealing with in your relationship, that you really work on yourself and you figure out, well, what do I need to work on so that I can show up, in a healthier way for myself and for a future partner. If you're struggling with codependency and you lack a sense of self and your identity is tied to how well you are able to anticipate the needs of other people, you can see how that can become a hand in a glove situation for a narcissist who feels entitled, who feels superior to you. You can see how that can become a really bad situation really, really quickly, and how someone who is unaware of their level of agreeableness, right? So if you're somebody who is highly agreeable, then it might be difficult for you to say no. You might just go along with someone who has high narcissistic traits, which I experienced firsthand, watching my mom, who was conditioned and trained to be afraid to speak up. And one of the ways that, there were many ways, but one of the ways that my mom was controlled was through intimidation, was, the raising of the voice or the slamming of the fist or the glare, letting her know that, she had done something that, my dad did not approve of. And so her not being able to stand up to him and her being highly agreeable when it came to him, it worked in the moment because the dust settled, but the dust settled because the person who huffed and puffed won. And what that did was that really taught my brother, my sister, and I to be afraid to go up against authority, to be afraid to speak our mind, and to not want to burden anybody with what we were experiencing. I do think that it's important that we all seek the middle ground, that being able to understand how being raised by a narcissistic parent can fill you with ridiculous guilt and ridiculous over-responsibility and even an irrational attachment to feeling responsible for things that you're not guilty for, and the ability to rationalize feeling guilty for something that you shouldn't feel guilty for and not catching that soon enough before you fall into a rabbit hole. Here. And so I want to talk about some of the early warning signs that you're dealing with a narcissist that aren't always so easy to spot. So the number one sign that you're dealing with somebody who, an early warning sign, is somebody who's passive aggressive. Somebody who makes you question, like, what? Like somebody who gives you backhanded compliments. Somebody who, the way I look at it is you give with one hand, then you take away with the other hand. Somebody who you notice either with you or with other people has to diminish someone else's accomplishments. Now this is done to make somebody who has narcissism or who has high narcissistic traits feel better about themselves. Because remember that the grandiosity that you see is to mask insecurity, right? So with a narcissist, they have to feel better than in their own head. It helps to keep the shame away from them, from their insecurities away. So, they're always jockeying for position, number one, in their head, and they'll slip up. They'll put a friend down in front of you, or they'll put you down, or they'll compare you to someone else. Like you might have a friend who's like, wow, oh wow, that you won first place, but what happened a couple of years back when you came in last? It's like, ooh, You know, like what just happened there? It was like I was up and now I'm down. Like I thought you were there with me, but now I'm down. So that's an early warning sign that you might want to look out for. A second sign is you might notice that there's an attention on getting you to talk about feelings. You might notice that and this has to be a pervasive pattern for this to be true. I always say that in my videos. This should be a consistent, pervasive pattern. Everyone's going to have a bad day, and I don't think it's fair. I always say this. It's not fair to judge someone based on their worst day, right? So we're all struggling. We all have to find our balance. But if you notice that someone that you know, that this pattern of keeping everyone else talking but themselves. So they don't want to, and why is this? They don't want to reveal themselves to you. They don't want you to know where their boo-boos are. Someone who is narcissistic and highly narcissistic and someone with NPD is going to take all the emotional information that you have given them. They're going to put it in their storage box, and when they need it, they're going to take it out of the box and they're going to use it against you. And so you won't really get a whole lot of vulnerable information from a narcissist. And if this is another thing, this isn't an early warning sign. Most of the times you won't even know it right away, unless a narcissist really slips up, and that's lying. So if you're dealing with someone who has high narcissistic traits when you first meet them, if they are being vulnerable, what you discover later on is that it was a lie. So they use the sob story to lure you in. They had an ulterior motive. They wanted something from you, and the way they acquired that something from you was to play on your empathy, right? But an early warning sign is when you are with someone and you're noticing that they don't want to talk about their past, or over time you notice that they are sitting back and everyone else is talking but them. And when, let's say you know someone, you think you know someone long enough, maybe 6, 7, 8 dates, and you press a little bit more about past relationships or maybe even childhood, and they get angry. That's an early warning sign. This is somebody who may have, not saying always, because that's just not reality, but this may be somebody who has some unresolved issues. And if this person, and I learned this from Dr. Craig Malkin, if this person that you press a little bit about family history gets angry, and yet at the same time, it's like they're talking out of both sides of their mouth, that they suggest that their family, their childhood was amazing and it was perfect, but they can't tell you what was so great about it, right? So, there may be something there that's lurking in the background that may turn out to be dysfunctional for you or toxic for you, because it's unresolved and they're missing pieces of the puzzle. And so, if I have a thorn in my foot, but I act like I don't have a thorn in my foot, that thorn in my foot is going to irritate me. And if I don't know that the thorn in my foot is irritating me, then when I am triggered in the 3D world, I might take that out on you if I don't acknowledge what's really bothering me. And so that's an early warning sign. So the inability to be vulnerable, the inability to talk about their past over time. I mean, if you meet someone and they don't want to talk about their family history right away, I don't think there's anything wrong with that, right? You're just getting to know someone. But after you spend time with someone and you're developing some trust and you've talked about yourself, right? I think after 6, 7, 8 dates, 9 dates or whatever it is, a few months into a relationship, there should be some sharing coming from the other person as well. So if you find that that's difficult for that person, then that may be an early warning sign that you're dealing with someone who is narcissistic or is suffering with high narcissistic traits. Another sign is, which I wish I knew this. I wish I knew this stuff years ago. But a sign that you're dealing with someone who may be problematic is an early sign is notice how they treat people that can do nothing for them. Now, people who are high on the spectrum need people around them for a source of narcissistic supply. They want something from them. And they feel entitled to that something, and they will exploit other people to gain that something. Other people are not autonomous beings. They are means to an end. You don't always see that in the beginning. And so I think one of the most important early warning signs that you can look out for is pay attention to how someone treats someone who can do nothing for them. Like who? Well, you go to a restaurant. How does this person treat the waitress? How does this person treat the busboy or the bus girl? How does this person, when this person's leaving a business, like, do they hold the door open for the next person, or they just don't care? Is there this lack of social connection, right? Is there this subtle sense of superiority when it comes to people who can do nothing for them? I think it's a very telltale sign. Do they move out of the way? If you see somebody hobbling towards you in the grocery store who maybe has a boot on, like they hurt their toe, they broke their toe, does the person that you're with, do they naturally move out of the way for that person? Narcissists tend to be obviously very self-absorbed, and it's about them. And so this idea of having this connection to other people, might be foreign to them. Whereas someone who is more empathic, somebody who is more in the middle, someone who has this social consciousness of other people, that I am not the only person on planet Earth. Everybody has a need, and everybody is significant. Everybody is valuable, right? So remembering that, in a narcissist's mind, they're always jockeying for first place position. They want to be seen as superior to other people. Just look for subtle signs of whether or not this person is socially and consciously aware of other people, specifically when it comes to doing things for other people that can do nothing for them. I think that's an early warning sign. And if you can spot that early, I think you can save yourself a lot of grief. Another early warning sign that you're dealing with somebody who it might be more narcissistic than you're liking is someone who needs to control everything. So they have to decide where you go to eat. They have to decide on what time. They may even want to decide what you wear. Somebody who is got to control what you eat. Somebody who has to just control everything. They have to drive. They have to do everything. They make the last decisions. You just notice this pervasive need to control everything. Like you're cooking dinner and then they can't just let you cook dinner. Like it's everything. They have to be involved in everything, right? There's not a decision that you can make that involves this person that they cannot control. So it's not like this 50-50 thing. It's like, no, whatever decision we need to make, it's non-negotiable. I'm going to make it. But if again, these have to be pervasive patterns. You have to see this over time. And again, I think it's really important that when you are recognizing these symptoms in people, you know why. You want to do this so that you can be more skillful and masterful in your own life. You need to know what you're dealing with so that you don't lose yourself in a relationship that is going absolutely nowhere fast. Another early warning sign that you're dealing with somebody who is narcissistic is they tend to gossip about other people. And, there isn't a whole lot of compassion for other people. They tend to gossip about people in the sense that they're trying to make you think about this person in a negative way. And again, it's because they're trying to hide their own insecurities. And by putting someone else down, at least in their mind, it makes them feel less insecure. It makes them feel more powerful, more important. And it helps to mask their own sense of low self-esteem. And so it's important when you're first meeting someone, an early warning sign is that they don't lift people up. They tend to tear people down. So they don't encourage other people. And I think the theme that will come through is there's this sense of competition between them and everyone else, and their desire to align you with their vision. And if you can pay attention to this, and if you notice any of this in yourself, then becoming aware of it is something that you get to work on. None of us enter planet Earth perfect. You know, we all have our stuff. We've all been conditioned by our parents. And we've all been wounded, you know. So it's important that as we learn about narcissism, and codependency, we take the lessons that we learn and we ask ourselves, am I guilty of that? And work on that. But in addition, use this information to help you pick out people in your experience that may not be your cup of tea long term. Namaste, everybody. My name is Thre Romano with the Breakthrough Life Coach. And if you'd like to learn more about the 12-week Breakthrough Coaching Program, registration is open now, and you can check that out by clicking the link below. If you're the adult child of an alcoholic or the child of a narcissist, this is a program that will help you connect to your personal power so you can live the life that you were meant to live. Namaste, everybody. Until next time, and I bow to the love and light that is absolutely in you. Don't forget to think. Bye for now. If you love this content, check out the next video, and don't forget to click the link below so you can take the codependency quiz. Actually meet a narcissist, because when you first meet a narcissist, they're sizing you up, right? They want to know just how far they're going to be able to push your buttons.